Have you ever wondered, can you communicate directly with spirit guides, teachers, or non-physical consciousness, or even our higher selves? What would they tell us? My name is Kevin Moore, and since 2015, I started to practice a form of communication which is termed channeling. I have been interviewing experts on my talk show to find out, does life continue after we die, and can we communicate with those that have crossed over? With each expert I spoke to, they all had different ideas. Is there knowledge from the past which could be shared with the present moment? So I thought, why not just speak to the non-physical world directly through channelers around the world? And that's what I set out to do. They Call Us Channelers will take the viewers on a journey into the phenomena known as channeling. And my main goal with this docuseries is to bring a new understanding and awareness to channeling by looking within ourselves and asking, is it truly possible that we can all use this innate ability?
My name is William Shaffer. I'm an Akashic reader, which means I channel the history of all your lifetimes leading up to who you are now. And I channel what are the ongoing issues, the incomplete emotional lessons that you still need to work on in this life to help you understand why things are the way they are in your life or in your body, and so that you make choices that are more supportive to your needs at this time. When people ask me, what is channeling? To me, channeling is any time you connect or attune in any way deep within yourself. Many people have an intuitive feeling about something. Intuition, to me, is a direct communication from your higher self. And to feel or hear your higher self is channeling. Deja vu is channeling. This can often be a past life connection that's trying to manifest itself in this lifetime. Anytime you get any kind of feeling or insight, any kind of connection within yourself, these are all forms of channeling. And everybody's a channel because of that.
And everyone's a soul having a human experience.
Yes.
So, what is the higher self? What's your explanation of what the higher self is?
The higher self for me is the pure, divine, original being of who we are. It's the direct connection to the totality, to the all that is. For me, every single atom in existence is the hologram of the totality of everything. And our higher self is the totality of everything. It's the part of us that contains the whole history of all our lifetimes and all that is. So it's the oneness of everything.
So when somebody is channeling another being through them, maybe trance channeling, which is an old form of channeling now, or people are doing it less, or conscious channeling, but there is, I am channeling blah, blah, blah. What's the difference between that and why do they do that compared to connecting with the higher self, or are they going through the higher self to connect to that being?
They should be going through their higher self in all situations. Some people have no issues with allowing the consciousness or energies of another being to enter their energy space. For me personally, I just rather would not do this. I want to maintain as clearly as I can for myself, which is why I only will listen to my higher self. If another entity wants to give a message, either to me or to someone else, they speak to my higher self rather than entering my personal conscious energy space. And then my higher self passes on what in the best good needs to be passed on. We have to say at the same time, we have to also recognize that there are people who say they are channeling someone or something and may not be, whether or not they're doing it deliberately or whether they lack the consciousness to discern the difference. If someone is not really working with themselves spiritually and especially emotionally, then they can open themselves to energies that are not what they seem to be. And the higher self will sometimes allow someone to accept an energy into their energy field that's not what it says it is, because that soul is not working on themselves completely enough internally, emotionally, and they need the experience to learn the consequences of rejecting or avoiding self-processing, and to discern the difference of what is truth and what is something that's pretending to be what it's not. So the higher self is always in play, but depending on what's going on in the consciousness, this level of consciousness of the individual, will determine what we magnetize to ourselves as part of that channeling experience.
Right. Okay. So if someone would have come across people like that that are going through that process, what kind of information would be coming through that would send red flags?
For the person listening to it, if they are really attuned within themselves, it simply won't feel right. Your intuition, again, it's direct communication with your higher self. And when we can connect with our intuition, instead of trying to analyze and figure it out only through the mind, the intuition will send a feeling saying, this is true, this is not true. For me personally, I learned to differentiate between my mind and my intuition, in that my intuition, it always feels like a very deep, calm voice in the center of my body. My mind is always a noise that I really hear and feel around my head. So there's a real difference for me in how I experience the voices of my mind and my intuition. People have to develop that kind of awareness and recognition of themselves. It may be the same as I do, or it may be a different kind of feeling or experience. But you have to make a conscious effort to really connect and trust and value your inner self and your inner truth, so that you learn, you teach yourself how to feel what is the difference.
That's the hard part, absolutely. And most times, if the information is not coming from love, and it's not a loving information...
Well, that's a rather judgmental statement. For me, all experience is love, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it feels. People have to understand love isn't always soft and gentle and like this. Love can be very tough. Love can kick you in the butt sometimes, if that's what's needed. We have to be careful not to limit love and say it has to be just a certain way, because then we're really robbing ourselves of experiences. Even if there is someone coming from even a deliberate lack of lovingness, the experience as a whole is ultimately an experience of love, because it's a teaching, learning experience. And we magnetize to ourselves what we need to experience in order what we need to learn from it. And if we are afraid of what we need to learn, if we're resisting and denying and avoiding what we need to learn, that fearful resistance and denial, that's the source of pain and discomfort and crisis and upheaval. And that's where we get the sense of this is not coming from love. If we're coming from self-rejection, self-resistance, self-denial. But still, the process as a whole is a loving experience, because you have to learn this. So I would say everything is a loving experience ultimately. And we have to be careful how we label and judge or think we want love, because love is whatever it needs to be in the moment. And we have to accept that and trust that and be open to it.
where was your understanding of channeling? Where did that come from? Where did you learn any of this in a sense? What was your path, if you could just sum it up really briefly?
If I'm talking about this life only, then it's difficult to answer the question, because for me it's always been there. I can't remember a time it wasn't there. I was 3 or 4 years old and I already had awareness that I had been my own great-grandfather in my previous life. So it's always been there, and it's never been on the fringe for me. It's always been, this is normal, this is usual. I came to earth with it already. I mean, it's always been such a part of me, always, that I can't really find a beginning. It's just so much a part of what is that I can't find the beginning.
Okay. And where would you see, if there was any sort of evolution for channeling, where would you see that going as well?
First of all, I think people have to understand that everybody's a channel. Everybody. There isn't anybody that isn't a channel. All spiritual gifts exist in everybody. It's just that we choose whether or not to be open to it, to be aware of it, and we choose whether or not to work with it. And we make this choice consciously or unconsciously, depending on what our issues are. So I would want everyone to see channeling as something that's very normal and everyday, that everybody can do it. Channeling is not just this formal sitting down and going into a trance and letting some other being come in. That's just one tiny form of channeling. Anytime you're connecting or tuning to anything is channeling. So we're channeling all the time without even realizing it sometimes. So there's the challenge to make it a fun game, to realize how often we're all channeling in so many different ways and so many different levels. So I want channeling to be seen as something very normal, and we all can do it, and it's not in any one specific form or method. I would want people to not turn themselves into channeling junkies and addicts. It's too easy to keep going to people for channelings instead of trusting the information in yourself. So I want to see the evolution that people need to maybe just initially go to other people to kind of trigger a process, but that eventually we all don't need to go to anybody else, except maybe in certain situations when we get suddenly very stuck in a situation and we need somebody else to kind of give us a push or another point of view, but to not become dependent or addicted on it. And that everybody can celebrate and value how they can channel for themselves and each other on so many levels and ways. I want this to evolve into being as normal as going grocery shopping and anything else that we're doing in life.
Thank you for that. Thank you. And do you think there's an evolution between a psychic medium and a channeler? Do you think that they're both the same, or do you think one's evolving to the other?
No, I think they're just I think they're ultimately facets of the same thing. A psychic medium is just one form of channeling. Just feeling what is right is channeling. Feeling and listening to your intuition, your higher self, is channeling. Understanding your dreams is channeling. So they're just facets of one ultimately same thing.
And you could class it, could you, as, again, another way of saying it is, my way of saying it is, it's a form of just communicating to your soul. That's all.
Yeah, now, for me, semantics. For me, the soul is the part of your spiritual being that's incarnated into a physical experience, okay? We are all spiritual beings with many soul experiences. Souls don't reincarnate, spirit does. I always give the example of we're all like a pearl necklace. Each pearl is an incarnate soul experience. The string going through all the pearls and making it one necklace, that's the spirit, that's the higher self. And with each incarnate experience, we add on another pearl to the necklace. So it's not just of the soul, it's of the spirit. We are a spirit being with many, many, many soul experiences. And this is why, because people will say to me, well, if my grandfather is reincarnated, but he's a spirit guide at the same time, how's that happening? Because each soul experience retains its unique individuality. And yet it's all one. You have each individual pearl, but it's just one necklace. So that soul experience retains its individuality, and that can be a spirit guide to you and to countless others, while it has the spirit has incarnated and created another pearl for the necklace. So it's at the spirit level. And so this is why I don't say for each soul, but for every spiritual being, and it permeates into all the pearls, into the collective soul experiences. And of course, this explanation I'm giving, let's really confuse everybody, because we're talking reincarnation. We're talking linear time. This physical dimension is linear time, which is an absolute dream illusion. But we created this illusion in order to learn the healing, the transformation, the emotional embodiment that we came here to do. And we need linear progression to learn the lessons. But outside of this dimension, there's no time. Everything is now. So at the higher self level, you're living all the lifetimes now. It's all happening at once. And every lifetime is affecting every lifetime. So what you're experiencing in each soul experience is feeding into the total pearl necklace. Every pearl is learning from each other pearl. So we've got linear experience at this conscious level and the totality of it's all now simultaneously. Now, our human minds have a bit of a difficulty with that, and it's just so mental to try to grasp. But if we can just not try to need to analyze it and understand it so much and just kind of go with it, then in our own evolution and expansion of our beings, we can become more consciously aware of how this simultaneousness and the linear are happening simultaneously.
So, you're a conscious channel?
Yes.
And what is the normal things you channel for people? What's the average kind of reading that you do?
Okay, when people come to me for an Akashic reading, I ask them, why are you having this reading? I don't deal with people who, I'm just curious, I want to know who I was. There has to be a need for a greater understanding of themselves. A lot of people come to me because they've got cancer, they've got some illness or major problems in their body, and they want to know how to work with it. They come because they're seeing repetition of patterns in relationships, in their family, in work. They're at a crossroads where they have to make really important decisions and they find themselves stuck. Now, an Akashic reading will never tell you what to do because that's your responsibility. And it won't tell you the future because that's what you create. I hear from their higher self talks to my higher self, and my higher self says to me what information from their Akashic record they need to hear at that moment will help them understand why is this an issue, why is it going on, what you need to learn from it, and where you need to move with this. Then they take that information and they do with it what they choose to do.
Is there a depth that you've gone to before that surprised you?
I've heard everything. I mean, I've heard every story There isn't anything I haven't heard in these readings over the years. I don't think anything has honestly surprised me. The impact on me personally is that this is my very first incarnation that I am conscious when I'm doing the reading. In all the lifetimes before, whenever I was an Akashic reader, I went into a trance, and when I came out, even though I wasn't channeling any other being, I went into a trance, and when I came back, I remembered nothing. I did that deliberately because I didn't want to know, because I didn't want to see the mirroring going on in the other person. I didn't want to hear what messages for them might apply to me. So I went away and blah, 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 the reading, and then off they went. It had nothing to do with me. Big problem. That's one of the reasons I'm still here. So this was the very first lifetime where I can't do that anymore. And the biggest impact for me is that I'm doing the reading, and while the information's coming out, while my higher self is giving me the information, simultaneously my higher self is saying, "Are you paying attention, William? Because this is about you too." And I have to hear that, and I have to hear the information and not disrupt that. So I have to stay totally focused in what the person needs to hear, and I have to listen to that at the same time. And then when the person goes away, then I've got to process it. So, I mean, the biggest impact is now everybody's reading is a reading for me. Otherwise, I'm not the one they'd be coming to.
But do you think that if anyone came to see you, that they could ask most questions?
Oh, they can ask anything they want. That doesn't mean they'll get an answer. It depends on what's their highest good. People have asked information about past lives, and their higher self has said, right now that information it's deflecting. It's getting you off the course. It'll only make things worse, actually. Some people get a lot of past life information. Some people get very little. It depends on the individual need at that time. So it depends on what their issues are. But they can ask anything they want, but they may often hear, that's not for you at this time.
Okay, so if I wanted to speak to your higher self right now...
You are.
Yes, and you can feel the separation?
There is no separation.
There is no separation. And it's always there?
Yes.
Okay. And
which is true about everybody, whether they're aware of it or not.
How much of a filter are you towards that information?
Yeah, and that depends on what's going on in me at the time, you know. And of course, when I used to lecture, I used to say to people, now, nothing's the truth unless you feel it is. I'm only sharing what I'm experiencing as the truth in this moment. You are the only determiner of what's the truth for you. Because, you know, what filters are going on, it depends on what's going on in me at the time. And if there's a message coming through that applies to me and I don't want to hear it, I could be blocking things out and not be aware of it, because I would choose to not be aware of it so that I can avoid it. So this is why I always used to teach people, you got to be on your toes all the time. Because if you're connected to your higher self, you can feel, you can sense, he's interfering in some way. So, you know, it depends on the moment, you know. It depends on what's going on in me at the time. I'm known throughout the universe for being the angel of stubbornness, shall we say. That's putting it mildly. And to break down my stubbornness, it's taken eons. On the other hand, I'm the perfect tool to confront and mirror the stubbornness in others. So it's useful at the same time. And of course, then it just mirrors back to me again. I have to be as clear and honest with myself as I can be. And if I'm not, believe me, I'm told about it very clearly, very quickly.
If you could really quickly sum up, speaking to your higher self then, what is this reality? What is this and why are we here?
Okay. The purpose of physical reality is to be a symbolic teaching mirror. Now, a mirror has only one job: to reflect back to the source whatever is projected onto it. That's all a mirror is supposed to do. A mirror doesn't judge, it doesn't reward, it doesn't punish, it doesn't validate, it doesn't confirm, it doesn't accept or deny. It does none of this. It just reflects. And the purpose of this symbolic teaching mirror is for spirit to project itself as a soul experience and create and act out experiences to learn what it needs to learn in order to heal any avoidance, denial, or resistance of total self-love and self-being. And so we create this linear experience to learn how are we resisting loving and trusting and honoring who we are. And how do we play that game? And so we project everything onto the mirror, and the mirror reflects it back. And we have been spending eons and eons blaming the mirror, accusing the mirror as the source of all our problems. And boy, that's what I've been doing. I came into this life saying, I hate physical reality. Humans are dumber than soup. I don't want to be here. That projection is merely a smokescreen, an avoidance. And behind that crap was, I don't trust that I can complete my experience in this dimension. I don't trust I can learn all the lessons and embody all the emotional issues. I don't trust I can do it. That's too painful to feel. It's been too shameful to feel. And shame has been the number one emotion I most fear and is most painful to me. So I avoided that shame by being a victim. Oh, physical life, it's crap, So what happens when I project that onto the mirror? What does the mirror do? Brings it back. Then what do? You see, I was right. But a mirror doesn't confirm or validate anything. It just reflects. And so we are in this dimension of existence until we learn life isn't validating or confirming anything. It's just showing us what we're projecting. And when we finally get we're projecting it, and why are we projecting it, and what do we need to learn from that, then we start to move forward and genuinely evolve by healing and transforming ourselves. This dimension it's a mirror, but it's a movie. And this is one of the reasons we're so attracted to movies. When we're watching a movie, this is how our higher self watches us. And being so caught up in movies, it's the mirror saying, but this is what your life is. And we learn lessons from watching movies. That's what life is. So life is reflecting to us the process of what's actually going on.
But why would a soul, a perfect soul maybe, or a soul with infinite intelligence, which is what we are, the spirit, the soul, all combined on the necklace, as you described earlier on, as perfect as it is, need to go or put ourselves to this test?
Okay. At some point, before this dimension existed, this physical third dimension, We use the term God. It's got there's dynamite in that term because everybody projects so much into it. To me, God is simply a label for all that is. The all that is had awareness of itself. It existed and was aware it existed. And that was it. There was nothing else. And it was in a state of stagnation. And the all that is, in order to evolve, to expand, it had to experience feeling the awareness. Awareness wasn't enough. There had to be this emotional embodiment of the awareness. And, millennia for the totality, all that is, to figure that out. But the third dimension was created in order to fulfill that process. The all that is, it was all, but it didn't feel, it wasn't being that reality. It was just aware of it. And so we all were emanated from the totality in order to experience, to not only learn this, but to emotionally fully embody it, to feel it 100%. It has to be a feeling reality equal to the awareness reality. That was the incompletion that the totality needed in order to expand, which is the natural state of the all that is. And so we are fulfilling this for ourselves as unique individuals and for the all that is, because they coexist as one always.
And how long will that neediness go on?
There's no such thing as time except in this mirror. So it doesn't matter how long it takes in this dimension, because outside of this dimension, it's all that is. You understand?
So this all that is didn't just create this reality to have the experience that you've just suggested. It also created interdimensional realities to have experience, and other solar systems, other universes, other parallel dimensions.
To accelerate the process, yes. The all that is works within this third dimension. It creates unlimited alternate realities, alternate universes. Universe is sort of a misnomer because there isn't just one universe. It's many. Every time we create anything, think anything, we're creating alternate universes of existence. If we can think of something, it exists. If we can create anything, it exists. So there are innumerable levels of dimensions and universes where we're acting out the various alternatives. Every time we have a choice to make, whatever all the choices are, they all become separate realities, and we're living them all. And at the higher self level, we're living them all. And all these other alternate universes, they are affecting one another too at the same time, all feeding into the totality, because however many unlimited number of us there is, there's only one at the ultimate. It's all one anyway. So it's all coming together as one experience, one growth, one transformational evolution and expansion.
And am I speaking to the all that is when I speak to you right now?
You are speaking to the all that is anytime you're speaking to anyone, anywhere, regardless of whether that person is consciously aware or not. It's just that the more aware you are with it, then the more you can work with it, and the more you can expand yourself in higher levels of experience of yourself.
So right now, the all that is with me, even though I feel separate, though it's not there, and I'm speaking to it through you. actually, I am speaking to it with even the words that are coming out of my voice.
Yes, and you are never not speaking with it, ever. And again, it doesn't matter how consciously asleep someone is. It has nothing to do with it. It's our higher selves are working through us, whether we're conscious of it or not. But the more conscious we are with it, the more creative we can be, the more powerful we can be in manifesting whatever changes that we need in our lives.
So when we say, or when you have said that some people are as dumb as soup,
Remember, that's my mind projecting onto the mirror to avoid whatever I don't want to deal with. But yes.
but that's the all that is saying that.
That is my mind projecting that. And that is my higher self allowing it to, because I need to learn from my projections. I need to see and own that a fearful part of my consciousness is perceiving itself as separate and creating this victim consciousness to try to avoid the truth. And the higher self allows us to do whatever we need to do to learn what we need to learn.
But still, it is the all that is.
Yes.
So the all that is quite cruel.
No. Your mind is judging it as cruel.
The all that is having an experience of cruelness.
It's having an experience of what we choose to experience as cruelness, to learn what that is, what it comes from, what it means about how we're relating, and especially not relating to ourselves.
So the all that is disconnects from its own self to have separation, a blameless separation, a separation of separation in a sense, where it's then has a right to not take ownership of its separation, maybe, and not take ownership of acting dumb and acting pain and acting cruel, to have experiences of cruelness and pain and joy and enlightenment and everything else in between.
The higher self is making no separation whatsoever. The conscious mind is creating the illusion of separation because the mind wants to be in control. The mind is built on the fears. The mind is built on the lack of trust, the lack of self-love. The denial is what gives the power to the mind. So the mind creates the illusion of believing in separation. The higher self doesn't separate at all. But in this conscious incarnate level, we think there's separation. We experience it as separation because that's what the mind is telling us, and we're choosing to believe the mind because we're in control of the fear.
But the mind was a byproduct of this third dimension reality.
Yes, but still, the higher self is making no separation. Even though the mind is experiencing it that way. Just because it chooses to see it that way doesn't mean that's what's going on.
But everything is still God.
Yes, but there's no separation except in our imagination. There is no separation. We think there is, we believe there is, we therefore experience it that way until we learn that's what we're doing to ourselves. That's what the mirror of life is reflecting back to us all the time.
Why did the all that is feel so separate and unknown to itself?
It didn't feel separate or unknown. It felt incomplete. It felt a stagnation. It felt it wasn't expanding. But that's not separation. It realized, there's a puzzle piece missing.
Where does the all that is where does it perceive that it came from?
William cannot conceive of that. It's a question so far beyond the human mind, And when we get to a certain point in our evolution, that question will be answered because we'll be ready for it. But it's like explaining to a kindergartner, high school level, it's the mind is not created to grasp that. But we will evolve to a point where we will grasp it.
What about those that are saying now in their own teachings that there is gods, or there is all that is beyond all that is? There are others. There is something else beyond the all that is.
And there's more, and there's more, and there's more, and it's all one. It doesn't matter how much you fragment the oneness down. Every atom, each and every atom, is a hologram of the totality. So you can have gods and gods and gods and gods and gods, and ultimately, it's still all one being.
Is there some seismic information that hasn't come through then in that case that would change everything in our understanding of what this is?
There is always some level of seismic information to come through. But that's sort of the carrot, on the stick in front of us. As we evolve to higher and higher levels of our consciousness, there'll always be the next one, the next seismic revelation to go to. It's never ending.
Well, if that is the case, then what then shines a light to say that we're getting this right, that the information that's come through so far, of all the truths that have been said, and through yourself, William, that have come up with your own truths, that they are therefore not ultimate truths? And I know everyone's singing from the same hymn sheet. Yes, we have past, present, future lives. We've had this soul incarnation that's been continuing through all that journey. We go back home, we have a life review. Things that truth that always come out. What makes those truths then is that they seem to stay the same, like science when it's repeatable. But even what makes that a truth?
Truth is only what you feel and choose as truth for you in that moment.
Is the truth of the truth coming out now, even from yourself and others, is that actually working? Is that making this a better place? Or are any of those truths helping us right now?
Quite often, you can't see the benefits of what you're achieving because healing and transformation requires so much cleansing. It's a constant birth, death, rebirth, death, rebirth, death, rebirth, death. And there's so much clearing out and cleaning out in order to evolve. And each time you go from a birth into a death to get to the next rebirth, depending on the level of fear and resistance and avoidance and denial, that determines how dramatic that death rebirth process is. So things can really, really look crappy, but it's actually a cleansing, healing process. When you have an infection and the pus is coming out, that looks ugly, that pus. But that pus coming out is part of the healing. Well, we're in the pus stage right now. A lot of crap that has been buried for eons is all coming to the surface. Mother Earth, as a conscious being, made the choice, I'm finished for you as a karmic school. I'm done being your karmic school. So everything you've projected in me that you didn't want to deal with, I don't want it. So it's all coming to the surface to be cleansed, to be released. And so all these dirty secrets and scandals that have been buried for years and decades, all the pus is coming to the surface. It's a cleansing. This is a death process we're going through. Mother Earth is in labor, giving birth to the new Earth at a higher vibration. And this death process is the transformation to give birth. And we're kind of all stuck in the birth canal right now. We're right in the middle of it. So, the shit is hitting the fan, and there are lots of fans. But that's the cleansing. So you can't always judge by how things look. And we have to learn to actually not be judging at all. We have to learn to see things in another way. There's always another way of looking at anything. And we have to let go of our preset judgments and our reactions that are based on past life conditioning and allow the shit to come up. And what is going on the planet? What is that mirroring what's going on in me that needs to come up? We have all these terrorists all over the world. Well, the terrorists are mirroring what terrorism are we doing to ourselves that we need to deal with and take responsibility for. Because self-rejection, self-denial, these are forms of self-terrorism. So, are things improving? Yes, but you can't always tell by looking at it. You got to be willing to look behind, underneath what's going on.
Have you ever been or wanted to go beyond what you believe in, what your teachings bring you through in emotional healing? Have you ever said to yourself, you know what, is this really true for me, or should I go beyond what I think I know? Can I go beyond with the gift I've got and go deeper into a newer truth that may be something that's more beneficial than the truth I have?
I've certainly asked that question many times. And the recognition I've come to inside myself is that the process I'm in right now, I'm not done with it. I have to stay in this process that I'm in. It's going to last some more time. And I have to be careful not to want to be rushing into what comes next. That's deflection, that's avoidance. I have to be so totally in the process I'm going through myself. Totally letting go of this, physical life is blah, blah, and people are blah, blah. I have to so totally clear out those safety nets and be so completely, utterly in myself, in a full state of acceptance and emotional being and trust of who I am. And that will naturally, automatically lead me to what will come next. But I'm not worrying about what that next truth may be, because I have to be in the middle of where I am now.
Is any of this real?
I once went to a channeling of someone who was channeling space beings. And someone asked that question, and the space being said, wow, reality, what a concept. What's reality? This is a dream, okay? This is a movie, but it's just as real for what it is. For what it is. It's a learning experience. It's real insofar as what it is. But we are far beyond how we're experiencing ourselves at this time in this movie. We're much more than that. So it's a very limited reality. It's a reality that's a foundation from which to expand from. It's as real as you choose it to be, to whatever degree, on whatever level. But reality, it's like truth. It's whatever you choose it to be in any given moment.
But then you say that, yet you still take everything that you feel as truth to be so real.
Yes, because I'm in the process of going beyond what I think I know and understand. I'm in that process of emotionally trusting, emotionally embracing my truth, and being it and feeling it as fully as I can. And so I have to allow to come up in me, in my body and in my life, anything contrary to that, anything resistant to that. And so I need to experience the reality, because this is how I'm training myself to feel what is my truth, to be it, and not just know it or understand it or analyze it. It's my tool for embodying my truth, and once I do that, that then naturally moves me towards whatever the expansion of truth or reality will be next.
But we live in a time right now where actually just around the corner was a massive expansion of reality and truth, but we just don't know it's just around the corner. Or what if around the corner, what if like 500 years from now, we are all technologically a bit more advanced, but still in the same shit, still doing the same stuff, still people like me and you having the same conversations in interviews, like something that resembles an interview in the future, whatever that may be. We're still no fucking further, right? What does that mean?
It means you have to continue working on your issues and your lessons. You know, time only exists in this dimension. And whether you learn something in a day or 6 million years outside of this dimension, it's one and the same.
What about when we get outside of this dimension? If we even do that when we cross over, it may be something else. And it's like, actually, this was all my illusion. This was actually a life review. We'd got so screwed up what we thought was a life review. We thought that was somewhere else, but actually this was a life review. And that's how real a life review can be. It's actually like this.
Then we deal with that. Then we have to process that and work with that and learn from that. I mean, whatever it is, we face it and we deal with it, whatever it's going to be.
Couldn't we have woken up now to the bigger picture?
Then you would have. If you were ready, if you were willing, then you would have done it.
How speaking to your higher self, could I wake up to the bigger picture? How can we, people watching this, wake up to the bigger picture?
You have to be willing to accept that who you are is far beyond what's going on here. We have to be willing that there is no one doing it for us, that we are all equal totality. We have to be willing to be in our full power, in our full sense of self, and not needing to hold on to safety nets to hide behind to avoid this truth and reality of ourselves. We have to be willing and ready to be who we really are.
But you do all that. Let me say then, okay, I'm going to now from now on say, this is a life review. I'm making my own truth up here. And everyone can turn against us and say, well, a load of wank that is, right? Because that's not kept. That happens another time. But I'm saying that my new truth is this is a life review. And I treat the ideas that you said there, and I go forward with those ideas, yet there's no difference. There's no bigger picture. Even though I'm saying, I think this is a life reality, nothing changes. I still cross over, and then whatever this reality is comes clear to me. Was I just wasting this life then saying, this is a life reality, this is my teachings to the world?
There's no such thing as waste. You experience what you need to experience until you're ready to get what you need to get. And you choose what is truth and reality, and then go with it and see what happens. And you're either moving forward or you're not. And if you're feeling that you're not, then you have to go in and look at that again. Why not? Why not? What is it I feel I'm missing, and why?
So could you say then to people in this interview that actually the way forward in expansion of consciousness, if we want to go to a level of spirituality 2.0 and not be stuck at 1.1 all the time, which is for the next 1,000 years maybe, we will actually truly do want to move on to new truths to come out, bigger than what's come out now, is the only way forward then to make things up?
The way forward is to be as honest and truthful to your feelings as possible. The key is in the feeling. And the feeling will guide you. You can only choose your experience, what is truth, go for it, see what's happening. Do you feel you're growing or learning or not? If not, why? What do you feel is blocking you? You can only be the creator moment by moment, because what you feel in any given moment is the key. It's the channeling. It's the answer to your question.
But my questions almost point me into a direction of give up, let go, just enjoy this life the way it is, because those questions that you're asking just force you into the present moment of the present moment, because really there are no answers, because even though you're connected to your higher self right now, there's nothing that's going to come through that's actually going to give me those answers, because it's almost like the higher self is unable to answer it.
It's not that the higher self is unable to, but expansion doesn't come from understanding. It comes from feeling and being. You have to become it. Getting an answer and understanding, it's stagnation. It's not enough. So you want to choose, I'm just going to enjoy myself and let go of all this. Yeah, do that and see what happens. See where it gets you. Because the world will, life will mirror that back to you. It's for those who are genuinely wanting to move forward, it's a feeling experience. Understanding takes you just so far. You have to feel and become it. That's the key. And until you embody 100% in a feeling reality what is your truth, there will be no expansion. That doesn't mean you're wasting your life if you're not breaking through. You will create experience however long you need to in linear experience until you're ready to go where you want to go.
So you create an experience of complete peace in your life.
Mm-hmm.
You create peaceful experiences, which most of us do not.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us do not. Most of us are addicted to the harshness and addicted to at least conflict most of the time in some form, until we're not ready for it or we don't want it anymore. We then go forth into a life of peacefulness, love, whatever that means, as you say, many facets of it, right? But more peace and more helping and being kind to yourself and others. Yet there were no keys to the last breath of your life that were given to you about what this nature of reality is, except you did live a peaceful life. So it's almost like even if you do that truth, as you say, you're still so disconnected from what this is. It's so hidden in enigmas that it never wanted you to discover what this true nature is, except we can write books and say, well, this is my truth, this is what I believe it might be, but it never showed itself truly, did it?
In what you described, it's still a rather mental experience. What is peace to you? Is peace lack of conflict? Lack of conflict is not what peace is. It is not. Peace is able to confront conflict when you need to and work through it and learn from it. Peace is not the absence of pain, suffering, and conflict. That's not peace. That's a mental misperception. And if you lead a life of what you think is peace, and there's no real emotional learning and embodiment going on, you're just being peaceful and being nice to people, and you think peace is no conflict, this is a mental diversion. And then your life is going to mirror to you. You're not doing the real emotional embodiment, because someone who is really loving and being themselves fully emotionally, it is peace to meet any conflict and work through it however you need to and learn what you need to. Lack of conflict is not peace. It's mental misperception.
But is that just the truth of your higher self coming through there?
That you are the only one that can answer, is this truth for you or not?
Is the higher self deceiving us on a level of wanting to go further on what this nature of reality is, for reasons that maybe we've agreed upon before we came down here?
There's so much judgmental potential in that word, deceiving. The higher self will play roles, whatever you most need, to help you the most in that moment, to give you the greatest opportunity to open up and move forward. It plays roles. Is that deceiving? That's a judgmental call. It will be and do whatever it needs to help you get where you need to go, what you need according to your needs in the moment.
What do you see 50 years? Let's go start 50 years. I was going to say 500 there. 50 years from now, the way that mankind is to itself and others, what would you see any progression if progression is more towards seeing that we're one?
All incarnate souls now will be in different realities by then. And so to answer your question depends on which souls are in which realities. Some of you are evolving towards the next level of oneness. Some of you are not, consciously or unconsciously. But you are moving towards whatever is the next level of experience, the next karmic university you need to go to continue creating the life experiences to bring you the answer to this question. You are always choosing and creating it within yourself. Each individual are going into whichever direction, whichever path they need to.
So, in your truth from your higher self, you feel that all the information that's coming through for you right now in this moment is that there are multiple parallel universes, and every choice. So, just tell us about that. Every choice that we make, we enter into a different reality.
We create many different realities, and aspects of ourselves are then living in those alternate realities. We are pursuing and exploring all the possibilities, all the choices, all the questions, so that at some point we reintegrate, we reunite, and bring all that accumulated experience together.
And an experience of someone like yourself compared to someone else that could be sat next to you on a plane, who would never look at these subjects, would look at you as being, a little bit strange for your truth, yeah? And, even to their last dying breath, would still not believe in any of this. What is that life going back to the collective versus your life going back to the collective, and in the sense of non-spirituality, non-anything?
Be very, very careful never to judge people by what they're doing and what they're living, because you never know what's really going on underneath that. There are beings who are pretending to be totally asleep, drunks in the gutter, children with Down syndrome, who are very, very awake and playing roles to provoke people around them. You can't see someone who appears to be asleep and assume they're asleep, first of all, okay? Expansion is not dependent on knowledge at all. At all, okay? You could know all the secrets of the universe and still be the biggest asshole, okay? Knowledge is not a requirement for expansion. It's how you live being yourself. So there could be somebody who is an atheist, doesn't believe in anything and doesn't want to, but they live their life so honestly, so truthfully. They are the truth of who they choose to be, so totally and honestly. They are far advanced than someone who's pursuing all the spiritual knowledge but emotionally constipated.
Such a fucking good point. Such a good point, right? Now, moving that forward here, because we've got very little time left right now, when we say they're more advanced, what the hell are we advancing to? What is our evolvement to? Even if we embrace all that great stuff you said there, what are we evolving to?
This is what we call ultimate job security, because there's no end to it. It never ends. There's no ultimate evolution. There's no limitation. You cannot reach the final end of evolving because there is no end. And we are evolving to become, many of us will become a total universe in and of within ourselves, and have just within ourselves the multiple realities and universes, and that will expand and that will expand. There is eternal expansion. There's no end. There's no ultimate end. You are evolving because that is the natural state of being, of oneness. Uh, that it is as it is. And we will become, you use that term, gods of your own universes. You will become the totality of your own universes, which are then facets of greater universes. It will expand forever.
Is there a possibility, even in this question, that we talk about living past lives, future lives? How many times have we lived this one life before, forgetting parallel universes, but just maybe reincarnating, and maybe it's a parallel universe question, but how many times have you been here in this timeline? And if we have been here before, which is not the kind of thinking out there, is that possible? Okay, let me ask you, could we live this life again?
Yes.
How many times have we been doing this one life then?
Why does it matter? What's the point of your question? It doesn't matter. It's however many times are needed. The number, the answer to that question is so meaningless. It doesn't matter. It's whatever is needed.
Am I stuck?
Do you feel stuck? You didn't answer right away. You answered your own question.
Is that maybe what even deja vu is sometimes? Maybe you're not picking it up from a parallel universe. Maybe you're picking up from this life that you've done before.
Deja vu is we reconnect with, I've been through this before. And again, Star Trek Next Generation played with this, with the deja vu, until you get the point. We experience deja vu. It's a channeling. You're connecting to, I've done this before. Now I'm doing it again, Groundhog Day. What didn't I get that I need to do this time? So the purpose of deja vu is, what did you avoid in this before? What can you see differently this time? What can you feel or react or choose differently?
I didn't make the choices I'm going to make now this time before. I'm making different choices.
Voila. And that's the point. And the choices you're making now are affecting all your other lives as Kevin Moore, and all your other lifetimes. In all the universes, everything affects everything now.
The same for yourself?
Absolutely, for everybody. Absolutely.
Why hasn't this truth been talking about before?
Well, understand, what we're saying, it's so conceptual. It's when you use verbal language, it's so mental, it's so intellectual, and it's so easy to get trapped in trying to understand this. It becomes an avoidance of the choices you need to make now that you didn't before, is the emotional embodiment. To feel, to trust, emotionally trust what you feel and know, and be it. That's what's been missing in this Groundhog Day that we're going on and on and on. So this information, it can be such an easy diversion. And humans chose until now. After ancient Egypt, because we're just remembering what's been known before. After ancient Egypt, we, in our self-judgments, we screwed it up so totally, which was a projected self-judgment. We were so focused on learning, knowing, understanding. There was no feeling process whatsoever. This was the problem with Atlantis. It was the problem with Egypt. And Egypt was a colony of Atlantis. It was a continuation of Atlantis. And it was all about the understanding. And so the understanding had to be wiped away for a while because it was getting in the way. It was a diversionary tactic to avoid the emotional embodiment, which is what the totality needs. So it needed to be an emotional experience. So all this knowledge had to disappear for a while to attempt to get us out of our heads so much and into the feeling experience. But we didn't want to do that. So we created religions and societies that kept us in the head and kept us in external form and ritual and belief system, which is very much going on in the head, to keep us away from the emotional body. We are now in the birth canal. The age of Pisces is, I am what I believe. And you are not what you believe. And Aquarius is the age of knowing that goes beyond intellectual understanding. It's the knowing that only comes when you integrate with the emotional. Atlantis was the intellectual, Lemuria was the emotional, and neither one learned from each other. And now we have to be together. And this is one of the reasons, by the way, that you're getting so many people who are becoming unisex. They're trying to manifest in the body what they're trying to do emotionally and spiritually. The masculine and feminine coming together. The mistake, which we'll put in quotes because there are no mistakes, but the mistake is that humans think male is masculine and female is feminine. And this is not true at all. Male and female only has to do with the sex of the bodies. Masculine and feminine are the energies. And whether you incarnate into a male or female body, you have to be the integration of masculine and feminine energy. So people are now, sexual identity is blurring so much because people have to learn masculine and feminine have nothing to do with male and female. So in integrating the masculine and feminine, we project that and act that out with men or women, whether you're men or, because it's not about the physical body, it's about the energy. They're even trying to sexually relate on a deeper emotional and energetic level. So it's the feeling, it's all about the embodiment of feeling, being your truth, not just the understanding. So the understanding had to be erased for a long time. Now it's coming back, but now the challenge is to take that knowledge back and not get stuck in the head again and make it a diversion, but incorporate it into the emotional feminine body so that the feminine is equal with the masculine, whether you're in a male or female body.
I think you've closed it off perfectly there, actually. So I'm just going to say thank you for sharing your truth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guru Brahma Guru